Hi, welcome back to Bride Society. I'm Rebecca and this is Laura.
So you'll see on our channel that we have lots of DIY ideas for your wedding or just general life. Anyway,
Parties, celebrations.
Exactly. So we thought we'd just have a chat about some of the things that we actually DIY'd for our own weddings, to give you maybe some inspiration or just to give you some insight on how we found the whole DIY process.
And I would like to preface this by saying my wedding was now almost 8 years ago. So if I look like I'm struggling to remember anything, or that might be why. Yes, so we're going to start off with the things that we kind of both actually did DIY for our weddings, and we'll insert pictures where we can as well, so you can get a sneak peek and insight into our worlds as well. So stationery, not pencils and pens and things, but like the things like save the dates, invitations, order of the day, menus, place cards, that kind of thing. We each did some of those.
Yes, different combinations.
Yes. Yeah. I particularly, I think, was focused on doing sort of save the dates and things because I had a lot of family coming from overseas and that kind of thing. I actually, in terms of invitations, I actually used Zazzle, which is like a online company where you kind of, so I didn't like do the design from scratch, as it were. There were sort of templates that you kind of play around with and personalise, and then they print it and send to you. But you had a different.
Yeah, so I didn't do save the dates, but I did design the invitations using some kind of pre-existing graphics that a friend kindly downloaded for me, and then did the rest of the kind of information. And for some of the invitations, we didn't do it for all just because of the cost and time involved, but for the kind of key people for the wedding, we actually laser cut or laser engraved the main invitation information on some wood. So we kind of had a bit kind of rustic theme running through, not overly rustic because the venue wasn't particularly rustic, so that kind of set the tone. And then the other information cards were just printed on card but with the same design, and then tied
it was
up.
Very cool. I have to say, I've still got mine. It made it more of a keepsake as well, with it being like a wooden thing.
And we just tied it all up with some ribbon and sent them off. But not everybody got the wood.
Hope those people aren't watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the invitations are a good way to kind of start like setting the tone for your wedding.
So the other stationery I did, order of the day, and on the place settings, which also doubled up as kind of a reminder of what people had chosen to eat. So kind of menu place setting. I had the same floral design from the invitation kind of somewhere on each of those things. And like with the place cards, I added some dried lavender, because then sneak peek later on we will talk about flowers. But yeah, so just kind of carrying on that theme. You don't have to do that.
No.
It's just something.
No, but it's what. But I think one of the big things when I found with wedding planning is there's so much choice.
Yeah.
Of everything, and I think being able to then like pick something that kind of weaves throughout gives you a bit of focus, and it look like it's cohesive in some way rather than it being a complete mishmash of just this like overwhelming thing of like all the choices. So you certainly don't have to. It's almost just actually a helpful hint, like in terms of trying to help manage that.
Once you've made one decision, that's it.
Yeah, you can run with it.
Yeah. So something else that we both did, but in different ways, was our seating plan. So again, for mine, it was kind of just following on with what I said about the invitations. It was the same design, but then so when I designed it on the computer and then sent it away to be printed, just on some foam board and then displayed on an easel. But yours was
very cool though.
Okay.
I think yours is the best one I've seen at any wedding I've been to.
Oh, okay.
It was very pretty.
I'll take that.
But yeah, for my table plan, I got a photo frame from like a large photo frame from IKEA. So again, it's trying to get something quite cheap, and a map of the world from Paper Chase, I think it was, and those like single sheets that they have in the big rack. And then it was literally like our table names were all places that my husband, now husband, and I had visited together. So obviously the map linking in, and then just the lists of names underneath. And my thinking as well was that, because I wrote it on in glass pen basically, but that could be removed, and the thinking that I could then repurpose the frame afterwards around the house. I do want to say with all of my DIYs is that you'll have heard me talk in other videos a lot about a Cricut machine, which is it's a precision cutting machine that gives a very professional look to all the DIYs that you can do. Whereas I got that machine way after my wedding. So things like the table plan that you'll be seeing, again, I would have done all the names and things in vinyl had I had my time again, but that is what I was working with at the time.
So now we're moving on to confetti. So we both provided, I think, confetti for our guests, and then displayed it in slightly different ways. I ordered petal confetti from a company online. Did you have? Oh no, you did something different. I can remember now.
It was almost 8 years ago, as I say.
So I just kind of got the confetti and made little envelopes and labelled them and put those on every seat for when people came into the ceremony, so that we knew that when we wanted that confetti photo after, so we knew that everybody would have confetti to throw, so it would work.
Yes. The route I went down was I didn't actually order any petals as such. So I had a fairly long run-up engagement period to the wedding. So from the point at which I knew that was happening, I started, like, whenever I got bouquets and things, I started drying out the petals to keep, and I kept them in a cereal box thing and until the wedding, so that I could use those petals. And then I had those sort of just topped up by my florist with sort of fresh petals, and I made the confetti cones and bases that were there for when people came out of the ceremony, which we have done the DIY of that for this channel, so we will link post that in the various places.
And the envelope one. In fact, we've probably got quite a few videos. Yeah, we'll link everything.
Yes, you can see where we found our inspiration for our own weddings. So we were going to talk about table names. I touched on mine a bit already. Do you want to?
Yeah, so for I used numbers for my tables. We didn't particularly have anything. We weren't inspired to name the tables anything, so we just went with numbers. But instead of just printing those, we actually, I had been given a few years ago a whole tea service, like the china, decorative china, and I actually used, I don't know what you call it. Basically, I transferred a design, printed it out, and then like a transfer, I guess, onto the plates, and I think each table had an animal or some sort of decoration that kind of meant something to us, and then the number on there. So they were just on plate stands on each table.
As I mentioned, mine were places that my husband and I visited. I'm claiming this as a DIY. It was more that my dad did it.
That still counts.
It still counts. It was my idea. So we framed a hand drawing that my dad did for me of photographs that we'd taken in each of those places. So Paris, for instance, was a picture that I'd taken of the Eiffel Tower and then had like Paris written across the bottom. But so my dad kind of turned the photographs into drawings, and they were framed on each of the tables.
Something a bit less decorative but still fun, good icebreaker for your wedding. We both provided quizzes on the tables, just for something for people to do. I think yours was more of an icebreaker.
Yeah, ours was more of an enforced activity.
Yeah. And as we're on the tables, if people wanted to do it in between courses, although there was mention of a prize. I think you gave prizes too, did you?
Yes.
Yes. So there was an incentive there for them to take up the quizzes.
And guest books. So I did have a standard guest book there as well. I actually had 3 different things. So I had just the standard thing. Because I had a photo booth as well, with that they also did the thing where you come out, they put one photograph in the guest book and they sign it and they get another copy. So obviously I didn't DIY those. But the other thing I did was I got a couple of sort of long rectangular plates from IKEA that I wrote sort of Mr. and Mrs. in the centre of them, and then had people like sign in like a ceramic pen on the rest of the plates, so for occasional use obviously. But yeah, I think wanted something that could be used in some kind of way after the wedding that wasn't just going to be then in a drawer or in a box under the bed for the rest of the time kind of thing. I just trying to find ways to do that.
And for our I should say.
Well, if you say our, it makes it sound like our.
Yeah, for my guest book. So I am someone who really struggles. I want to write something really meaningful, really heartfelt, like just a really amazing message in a guest book, but I really struggle. So I took that struggle and designed some little cards with some prompts on to help people maybe come up with something a bit more than just kind of congratulations from such and such. So these cards, and they still need to be bound, and this is something on my to-do list.
How many years has it been?
No comment. So got people to draw a little self-portrait for just a bit of fun, some advice, what their favourite part of the day was, and then there's a little box for kind of just the standard message, just to try and make it something a bit different, and if people do struggle, then they could at least maybe write something on there.
And so now moving into the sort of things that we didn't do that was the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So tissues. I didn't manufacture tissues, but what I did was for the ceremony was I covered a box lid essentially with a sign and tied sort of like a bow around those like individual tissues, you know, that you can get in like little travel packs. Took each of those out, put a little bow around to be handed out with the order of service as people arrived at the ceremony, because I love a good tearjerker, and so I set the tone.
You just wanted people to cry.
I did, yeah. I always like that. I'm the one that like in the guest books writing the soppy messages, or anytime I send a card, I'm like, yeah.
You're very good at that. So something I did, so I didn't have like a venue stylist or a florist even for the wedding, so we just made our own centerpieces for the tables. They were fairly simple. We bought some lanterns with like some fake candles in, and put some like moss and bits of like dried flowers in the base of them, and then had some bottles of flowers next to them on like the log slices. And so in the evening, when it got a bit darker, the venue put the candles on, so it just added a bit of ambience to the venue. So yeah.
I, as a sort of extra little touch for around the venue, I did washroom kits for. Well, actually, I don't think I did any for the men's. Before I tell a lie, I think I just did it for the ladies' washroom. Again, this is a video if you're looking for inspiration as to what to put in your kits, but it's on our channel somewhere. But yeah, I just put a bunch of stuff together just for that extra little touch for when people go in.
And as I say, I didn't have a florist for the wedding. I made the brave / stupid, crazy idea that I was going to
ambitious.
We'll go ambitious. That I would do all my own flowers and even grow my own flowers. Although I wasn't that. I did have backup plans and didn't grow everything, so I kind of covered my bases. So for things like buttonholes, we actually did dried flowers. I was way ahead of the trend with those, I'll have you know. And again, I say with like the menus, place cards that had like dried lavender on, things like that. We grew quite a lot of the flowers for the decoration, and then I also bought some from a florist, as just went in the couple of days before, just grabbed what they had for kind of some more like special flowers for the bouquet, just to make sure I had enough. And then some family friends kindly brought some along with them as well, so we had enough to decorate the venue just in glass bottles, and then put together some bouquets.
Chair backs. So again, if you've watched our channel for a while, you will know I am 100% not a fan of the white chair covers. I am sorry if you are. I know they're very popular, so sorry. So we actually hired in chairs. Our venue did have chairs, but they were like red velvet chairs, which was really not the look we were going for. So we had some in, and I did hearts on a piece of like silver thread to sort of hang around and hang off the back of the individual chairs, but alternate chairs, so I didn't have to make quite so many of them. And again, this is something we've done on the channel.
So the final thing that I can remember I DIY'd for the wedding was my wedding cake.
Hey.
So if you don't know, I actually have a wedding cake business, so I really struggled with the idea of asking somebody else to make the cake for me. And plus, I really didn't actually have a clue what I wanted for my own wedding cake. And
the pressure when it's like...
so in the end, we ended up keeping it fairly simple, but I actually made dummy cakes. So I decorated dummy cakes, the plan being that I could do that really far in advance. So it kind of was one less thing to do just before the wedding. Of course, it didn't happen like that. The thing got busy, and then it happened quite late on anyway. But it was fine. I made it bigger than I probably would have gone if it had been real cake. So it was very simple, but with just some sugar flowers on. Again, something I don't even offer in my business, but why not? So then we had real cake just kept in the kitchen to be served later on. So the cake was actually on display while people were eating cake. So they probably
gave the game away.
Yeah, they probably guessed at that point it wasn't real, but there we go. I have just remembered something else I DIY'd to do with cake.
Oh, okay.
So I lied when I said... But we actually made a sign for the cake area.
Yes, of course you did.
And we've got a video about how to do that on our channel as well. So why not have cake lit up?
Yes. And whilst I didn't do my own cake, Laura did my cake. She DIY'd my wedding cake.
That counts.
Totally counts. Yes, so favours, my husband and I chose, so I married a Canadian, our wedding was in the UK, but to incorporate that kind of, what's the word?
Kind of both
our
cultures,
yes,
countries.
Yes,
yeah.
Into
Interests.
the wedding. So basically for all the British guests that were at the wedding, they had a like mason jar that was full of things that were Canadian, right? So sort of little baked treats. I say we didn't make any cake. My husband did bake what are called Nanaimo bars and pecan squares, which are sort of traditional Canadian desserts, just like little squares that went in, and various other bits like little jar of maple syrup. There was a like hockey stick, like an ice hockey stick shaped key ring that was personalised. Various bits and bobs, and then the Canadian guests got a taste of British culture in their jar, which had things like jam, tea bags, that kind of thing. I can't even remember what else was in there.
I don't. I got the Canadian one, and it was delicious.
So we had those jars just full of little bits and treats out on the table, but I think that made a bit of a nightmare for the poor people that were like setting the tables, because they had to get it right in terms of which favour was for which name on it, every place setting. But yeah.
Oh well, they were some of the best favours. In fact, probably the best favours I've ever had at a wedding. Yes.
There were very few left behind. I think there was only like 2 or 3 left.
That's a sign of a good wedding favour.
So
yeah.
I'll take it. We also did cake bags for the cake, because again, like there's often some cake left over at the end, but we wanted to kind of encourage people to be able to take it away. As well, we put together like kids activity packs. We didn't have a huge number of children at the wedding. It was just sort of ones, because we were worried that certain people wouldn't be able to come without. So again, put some inspiration for what can go in those in a video on our channel. And so I'm rattling through them now because there's a few of mine.
Yeah. I'm out now.
And finally, lighting. So for our reception venue, at the time, like there was quite a big trend around the sort of vintage light bulbs, retro light bulbs. Is that what you call it? Like the filament? Yeah, with the exposed filament. So I've gotten it in my head that I really wanted these like in the reception venue to have these sort of drop down lights above like the tables to create kind of a mood and atmosphere. So yeah, we just like bought wires and light bulbs and messed around with electricity. I'm not saying I recommend doing that. The execution didn't quite work out because we weren't able to go in and decorate the venue ourselves, and we weren't given access to do that, so we're very reliant on the people who worked there, who were lovely and did their absolute best to do it, but my vision wasn't quite executed, unfortunately, but we tried.
So they are maybe just some or all of the things
we can remember.
Yeah, we DIY'd for our weddings. Let us know in the comments what you're planning, if anything, to do for your wedding, or if this has completely put you off. And so we'll link all the videos we've kind of mentioned, alluded to in the description box below. Give this video a like, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.